Good morning, everybody. How's everyone doing this morning? Every time. How's everyone doing this morning? I'll take it. Well, hey, thank you. Sometimes I'm under starlit sky, but I'm feeling more like dirt. How do I forget so fast of who you are and what that's worth? 'Cause there's an evidence of you in every corner of this life. So why do I still try to prove that I don't deserve your time? 'Cause I am yours and you will always be mine. It seems like madness I'm invited to the table by your side. 'Cause I am yours and you will always be mine. I'm a man whose one ambition is to dance with my divine. 'Cause I am yours. Sometimes I'm walking on a ledge and I'm afraid to just look down. It's like I think I'm in control. I'm giving gravity to doubt. But you love me where I am, enough for you to not look back. And it's the only kind of love that I have ever felt like that. I am yours, and you will always be mine. It seems like madness I'm invited to the table by your side. 'Cause I am yours, and you will always be mine. I'm a man whose one ambition is to dance with my divine. 'Cause I am yours, and you are, and you are, and you are, you are mine. We say no, don't let the rain come, 'cause we got our reservations. But the water that we need is bound to overtake us. If I had to write a story of the greatest love in time, I would have to sing of you, how I'm this branch and you're the vine. And the romance that we have, oh, it's easy by design. I my song, will teach my song to rise to you. When temptation comes my way, when I cannot stand, I'll fall on you. Oh, Jesus, you're my hope and stay. And Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. And Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. And you're my one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. And I've carried a burden for too long on my own, and I wasn't created to bear it alone. I hear your invitation to let it all go, and I see it now. I'm laying it down, and I know that I need you. I run to the Father, I fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, no reason to wait. My heart needs a surgeon, my soul needs a friend. So I run to the Father again and again and again and again. Oh, oh, oh. You saw my condition, had a plan from the start. Your son for redemption, the price for my heart. And I don't have a context for that kind of love. I don't understand, I can't comprehend. All I know is I need you. I run to the Father, I fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, the reason your arms is running to life from death, and I feel this rush deep in my chest. Your mercy is calling out. Just as I am, you pull me in, and I know I need you now. I run to the Father, I fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, no reason to wait. My heart needs a surgeon, my soul needs a friend. So I'll run to the Father again and again, and I run to the Father, I fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, the reason to wait. My heart found a surgeon, my soul found a friend. So I'll run to the Father again and again and again and again. Oh, oh, and again and again and again and again. Oh, oh, and again and again and again and again. Oh, oh, and again and again and again and again. Oh, oh, oh. Amen. Please bow your heads with me. I just want to read these lyrics real quick. I run to the Father, I fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, no reason to wait. My heart needs a surgeon, my soul needs a friend, so I'll run to the Father again and again. We do that, Lord, on a daily basis. We run into things that we're not able to help. We're not able to change anything about what we've done. And so what do? We run to you, Lord. We run to you with our heart, with our soul, to be able to change it, to be able to point it back to you. And we just thank you for the amazing grace that you have for us. Please bless this morning, and as always, let us have open hearts and open minds to what you have to say for us, Lord. In Jesus' name, we all said.
Good morning and welcome to Outpost. I see a lot of new faces out there. That's really exciting. So those of you that don't know me, I'm Pastor Adam Hubbard, and I'm the next gen pastor here. I work with all the youth and all the kids and whoever else doesn't want to come to service on Sunday mornings and sit out here. I don't know, all those people. So got a couple announcements for us today. We've got on Tuesday, we've got our ladies paint night. Wow, I just got so much louder all of a sudden. That's awesome. Ladies Paint Night, Tuesday at 6:30. You can sign up through the app for that, and I believe there's still more space for that. So if you want to come and hang out and do some painting, they're like teaching people to paint and doing something cool. I don't know, sounds fun. So, what's that? It's on the 11th, apparently. It's not this Tuesday. That was a test. Good job. Good job, you passed. It's on the 11th. It's coming up soon, not this week, but the next week. So, he's super bummed that the paint night's not this week. Now we have summer movies in the park. I don't know if you weren't here last year, you may not know this, but we help out the Yum Lions Club. They do a summer movies in the park where they show 5 different movies throughout the summer every other week. And here's the movies that they're showing. We go out there. This year we're going to take our bus out there. We're going to do cotton candy. We're going to do, we do like a little booth, and we hang out and we serve the community by giving away cotton candy, and it's really amazing. They all want to pay for the cotton candy. They don't want to take it for free, but it is free. So we have a lot of fun doing that. There's sign-ups if you want to come help with that. There is, we need people to come help set up the tents, set up the cotton candy machine, and then just to make as much cotton candy as you possibly can because there's a huge rush. We'll have like 50 people in line wanting cotton candy, and they all want their cotton candy right then. And so we have to make a lot of cotton candy. So if you think you can make cotton candy, come out and help us. Sign up in the app for that. Then we have Refuge is this week at 6:30. That's our regular Refuge time. And then on the 12th, we have our end of Refuge barbecue, where we're inviting all of our teens and all of the parents of our teens to come out and celebrate the end of Refuge with us. So if you're interested in coming to that, come on out. Let's see. I had to write a lot of notes because I have a lot of stuff to say today, so sorry. I know, he's so bummed that I have to talk so much. I'm sorry, buddy. We are in need of some more volunteers in our kids space. I don't know if you guys heard last week. I already got one volunteer, awesome. I don't know if you heard last week, but there was like 20 0 to 3-year-olds back in our nursery. We have a booming kids ministry, and we need some extra help back there. So if you've ever had any desire to work with kids at all, come see me after church. We need helpers, we need teachers, I need people for check-in, all sorts of stuff, all sorts of ways that you can help serve the kids here at Outpost Church and really help us out. We do all the training. You don't have to know everything. You just come back there and we'll get you all set up. So if you're interested in helping, come find me after church. I'll be on the bus, which is right out here today. I know a bunch of kids came in kind of bummed because they didn't see the bus out there this morning, but I called an audible this morning and I changed it up just a little bit, and we have the bus parked out up front. So you can check your kids in and they can go straight to the bus. We've got extra security out there to make sure it's all safe. And then when church is over and you go to check your kids out, you can just go straight there, get all your kids, and then just exit the building. You don't even have to come back through the building. Makes it much easier, hopefully. It's a trial experience today, so bear with me as we try that out today. But that's where the bus is, so all you kids that were super disappointed, it's here. Don't worry. And I'm teaching on the bus today, so let's see. All right, last but not least, the thing that's going to take the longest. Today is Senior Sunday. It's graduation time here in Yelm, actually like everywhere. And I am excited because I have 2 young ladies that are graduating this year. And I'm going to start with Soph. So Soph, come up here. Come join us on stage. Soph has been here for a couple of years, and I'm so sad that she's graduating, but I'm really excited for her too. I wrote down a whole bunch of notes about her to make it easier. She has worked on our AV team for the past couple of years and done some amazing stuff there. She has worked in our nursery, and she basically just does whatever I need her to do. I had her clean out the, underneath the sound booth is like our hidden nest of what we don't want anybody to see. She actually cleaned that out for me one time, and that's awesome because I had to hunch over so far to get in there. So she's done some awesome things here at Outpost, and I am so excited for her. She's planning to attend South Puget Sound, whatever. It's a college. I don't know. I can't say it apparently. South Puget Sound College. And she is pursuing a career in criminal rehabilitation. But unfortunately, she's actually going to be moving away from us this summer, going to Idaho maybe. So we're only going to get to see her for the rest of the summer, but really excited to see what God's going to do with her. And I'm going to have you stay up here on the stage for a little bit. I've got a gift for you, but we'll get to that in a second. And next, I'm going to invite Lily to the stage. Lily Hubbard. I am really excited about this one too, but also sad. This one's a little bit more difficult. This is my daughter, my youngest daughter, finally old enough to graduate. We thought it would never happen for a lot of reasons. I'm teasing. So if you don't know Lily, that probably means that you don't have kids in our nursery, because she works in the nursery almost all the time. Anytime that I'll let her, anytime that I even say, oh, I might need some help in the nursery, she's got her hand up because she just loves y'all's babies. Some of them more than others, but she doesn't play favorites, right? Yeah, right. Let's see, where am I at? She is graduating from Rochester High School this year, and she is planning to attend Centralia College and pursue a business degree. And then she actually wants to start her own business training service animals because dinosaurs, yes, she wants to train service dinosaurs. That would be amazing. Dude, you've got your first customer right there. So if you can come on over here. I'm so proud of both of these girls. They're going to do some amazing things. I've got a couple gifts over here. Thank you, Liz.
That's Lily.
Here is a gift for Lily. Got some awesome stuff in here for you. And here is for Soph. So I'm going to ask you to stand with me as I pray for them. There's a lot of pressure when it comes to graduating, a lot of fear and anxiety, but also a lot of excitement. So pray with me over them. And then after the prayer is our 10-minute break where you can go fill up your coffee, say hello to somebody, get your kids checked in, and start walking them towards the bus. And I will jet straight out there and be ready for them. So we're going to pray for them, and then we'll dismiss you for 10 minutes. Heavenly Father, Lord, I just thank you for both of these young ladies. They're going to do some amazing things for you, Lord, and I just can't wait to see what that is, Lord. And I pray that you would just watch over them this week and the next couple weeks as they're doing all this stuff for graduation. It really starts today and it just goes a lot of stuff. It's a lot of pressure and some anxiety, but a lot of excitement, Lord. I pray that you just watch over both of them as they continue their lives and they start growing for you more, Lord. And I pray that you just bless our service today as well, that all go according to your will, Lord. Amen. It's heavy, yes, I know.
Well, all right. Good morning, guys. How are y'all? Good? Good to see everybody. Hey, if you are new with us this morning, that's really loud, man. Can you turn me down just a hair? Thanks, buddy. Can't turn me down as low as it goes. All right. If you're new with us this morning, first, again, welcome. Glad that you are joining us. Or if you are just joining us for the first time in a while, then let me catch you up to speed, kind of where we're at and what we've been working through. We have been making our way through the book of Exodus for several weeks now. And this morning, we are getting ready to start the really action-packed, exciting thing. It's sort of, Exodus has a bit of a slow start to it as far as how the movement of the story goes at first. But today we are beginning our journey through the plagues. Everybody tracking? 10 plagues, locusts and hail and darkness and all that good stuff. And this is one of the most famous and kind of iconic pieces in the Exodus story. The kind of what people think of when they think of Exodus is the plagues. And so I'm really excited to dive into it. One of the things that you need to know about this story is it's a little bit like an onion, right? The more layers, or several layers to this story and what's going on underneath the surface, and why 10 plagues, why these particular plagues, what was God trying to accomplish. And the more layers that you peel back, and we're going to do that over the next several weeks as we sort of slowly make our way through these 10 plagues, you see that there is much more than is just going on at the surface. And even at just a cursory surface reading, it is amazing. And it is why we think of the Exodus story, because it's pretty wild, what God was doing there. But as we peel back those layers, we're going to see some really, really neat stuff. But before we do that, I need to set the stage for the plague narrative. And what's actually going on. Because if you're not careful and you read through the story, it can seem like God is just sort of throwing gratuitous violence towards the Egyptians, right? Like he's beating them with a club or something. And it's just man, it can seem a little overkill. It can seem are you sure all of that was necessary? All of those were necessary to do that? God, a lot of people died, a lot of animals died. It was dramatic, to say the least. But if we're going to understand what God was actually doing through these plagues, then we need to talk about a word, deconstruction. Who in here has heard of the concept of specifically faith deconstruction? Let me see a show of hands for those of you guys who have heard of that concept. Okay, so way less than what I thought. So let me do my best to explain what it is. And it's hard to define, kind of nailing potato salad to a tree a little bit. There's a bunch of different definitions out there. It's sort of a nebulous concept, but it really, we saw it come about in early 2014, and I don't know, a movement isn't the right word for it. It is a movement of things, but in the same way that a nuclear explosion could be considered a movement, right? It's more of, it has moved fast, it has been dramatic, it has been incredibly destructive. In fact, if you say faith deconstruction, that is a phrase that sends shivers down the spines of a lot of pastors. And so let me do my best to kind of explain what it is. Deconstruction is the systematic dismantling and critical examination of the faith you hold in search of what you actually believe and why. Right? We all good on that definition, right? It's not too hard. For some people, deconstruction is a really good and really helpful part of their faith journey. They wind up with a faith that is more solid and unshakable than ever, right? I believe that objectively and done correctly and in community with others, deconstruction is a healthy and helpful journey that should leave you with a very grown-up and well-informed faith. Unfortunately, most people don't end up there when they deconstruct. Most people end up with their faith in a ditch at best, or completely out of the faith in most cases. So let me give you a couple of examples. These are real people tied to, both of these examples are tied to multiple real people. One of them is maybe you grew up in an all-white church in the South. I grew up in one of those. And maybe you start reading a lot of history about racism, slavery, or civil rights, or something like that, civil rights movement in the 1960s. And as you do this, you understand that it was often evangelical, like Christian churches on the wrong side of history. And maybe you realize that a lot of the language used by those churches and Christian leaders, is the same language that was used in the 1960s. That's what you grew up in hearing. And while maybe nobody in your church, you would consider them like overtly racist or something like that, like how much of what you were taught can you actually trust if your church would have maybe been one of those churches on the wrong side of history? You guys tracking? You guys everybody with me on this? Head nods, right? And so you begin to deconstruct. What does the Bible actually say? What does it say about this issue and some of the things that maybe I grew up believing? Were the pastors or were the leaders in the churches that I grew up in, were they on par with what the Bible was actually teaching? And so you begin to sort of dismantle every aspect of your faith and go back to, and done rightly, you go back to the Bible and say, what does the Bible actually say about these things? That's how you wind up with a grown-up and mature faith, like unshakable faith, as you go back, and I promise you it won't let you down. But maybe it isn't that. Maybe you deconstruct on the basis of some of the worst things that you've seen in the churches that you grew up in. Example number one. Example number two, maybe you were deeply involved in a church that went wrong. Maybe it was a failure of Christian leadership. The pastor ran off with the worship leader, cleaned out the bank account, went to Mexico or something like that, right? Those stories are there. And maybe you were deeply involved in that church and you were right in the middle of all of the hurt of that, and you walk away from that situation incredibly, incredibly wounded. And the problem is maybe that isn't your first encounter with some terrible like church leadership or something like that. That's not your first wounding that you've taken from a church. And so maybe you wind up at this point where you believe that you could be a follower of Jesus, maybe, but I don't know that I can get behind this whole church thing. Or maybe you decide that it's all a sham, and if even the people that are up preaching on the stage every Sunday can't live consistently with what they're preaching, then maybe nobody can. So maybe none of it's real at the end of the day. And guys, man, we are watching an entire generation walk away, not just from the church, but from faith altogether because of it. But the deal is, and I've sort of already alluded to this, what if this was actually an incredibly healthy and helpful process, done rightly? I don't mean done the way that it's currently being done, but actually God himself is the one that has like prescribed this sort of testing the mettle of the different things that we've put our faith in to see if they are legitimate and if there's something that we should have put our faith in all along. Actually, this is the very process that God is leading the Egyptian Pharaoh through the plague narrative. See, the 10 plagues, and I'm so sorry, I did not print your notes this morning, so anyways, you can take notes or take pictures, whatever. The 10 plagues of Egypt are God's response to a question asked by Pharaoh. And not in like, you shouldn't have asked that way, so, lightning bolt, plagues and flies and frogs and whatever else kind of way, but like actually he is answering a question that Pharaoh asked him in such a way, not just to communicate something to Pharaoh's head, but to actually sink it deeply into Pharaoh's heart. That's what God is doing through the 10 plagues. And so we read the question that Pharaoh asked last week. If you weren't here, if you don't remember, I'm going to read it again for you. It comes from Exodus chapter 5, verse 2. That's what Pharaoh asked. He says, but Pharaoh responded, and this is the first time that Moses meets with Pharaoh, and he says, let my people go, and this is their very first interaction, and here are Pharaoh's very first words. He says, who is the Lord that I should obey him by letting Israel go? I don't know the Lord, and besides, I will not let Israel go. This is it, man. Do you see the question? And the question is, who is the Lord, and why should I obey him? Who is the Lord, and why should I obey him? The Egyptians had 114 different gods. They were incredibly pluralistic. They counted on these gods, little g gods, to provide them with all sorts of things, things actually that we rely on these same gods for as well. Pharaoh considered himself a living god. The point is they didn't actually care that the Hebrews had their God. In fact, it was probably a little weird to them that they only had one God, right? They have this like whole pantheon of different gods. And it's not unlike the very pluralistic culture that we live in today, man. Like, it's sort of the sense of like, hey, man, you can believe whatever you want to believe. Like, if you want to believe in the flying spaghetti monster, that is on you, dude. Like, you go for it and you run out that direction. So long as, like, what you believe doesn't hurt anyone else, you are free to believe that. And, man, the deal is it's actually not offensive to believe in God. Like, to literally anyone. Like, there is nobody that takes offense to the fact that somebody else believes in God. Now, they might think that you're stupid or backwards or superstitious for believing that, but nobody really cares if you or somebody else believes in some God. It's offensive to claim that God has any right or authority to tell you how to live your life. That's the part that's offensive. Believe whatever you want, man. But to say that this God then has authority to, like, tell me how to live my life, I'm not down for that. That's what angered Pharaoh, and that's what angers the people of my own, of like our own day, man. I have my own beliefs. I have my own little way that I see the world and interact with it, and because I believe it, it's right? We live in this age of post-truth. Post-truth was the word of the year in 2016. Oxford English Dictionary actually added it to the dictionary in 2016 because there's never been a point in history where this cultural concept had existed in the way that it does now. So they needed to put a word out there to describe the culture that we live in that says truth is incredibly relative. Truth actually matters less than emotions or like my own personal worldview. And so truth can kind of be whatever you make it. And so to say that there is some objective truth or some higher authority out there that like would claim to have some say over your life can be very incredibly offensive in a post-truth world. So here's the deal. Regardless of wherever you find yourself on the spectrum, right, this is still the question that every single person is asking. Who is the Lord and why should I obey him? And maybe you're here and like you're not a believer in any of this. I don't know, maybe your wife drug you here and you're like, dude, it's easier than fighting, so like I'm just going to show up on Sunday and hang out. Now, I don't believe any of this, and that's okay that she does or something like this. Like we're asking this question, like who is going to have authority over my life? But even if you would consider yourself a devoted follower of Jesus, you are still asking this same exact question. Like with 100% certainty, I can tell you, like every follower, there are areas of all of our life that we are clinging to control over. Maybe it's your mouth. Maybe it's your finances, right? Like, yes, God, I'll show up, I'll sing, I'll serve, but like, don't tell me what to do with my money, right? Like, don't tell me what to do there. Don't tell me what to do with my free time. Maybe it's in your marriage. I think for a lot of people, it's rest. In a culture of like go, get more done with less, more effectively and efficiently, right? Like God has commanded certain cycles of rest and work for us, and we've just, like most of our culture just sort of neglects that, and we continue to press on for more and more and more. And so we're hanging on to control in that thing. So one more piece that I need to set up for us, and then we're going to dive into the story headlong. We need to talk about those gods, the little g gods, for just a second. The deal is that like you can't live without someone having authority over your life. A lot of times it's you, but there are just as many areas where we are slave to another master. So I'm going to read you this passage. It comes from Exodus chapter 12. And if you've grown up in the church like your whole life, what I've found is that what I'm about to say is probably going to be incredibly disruptive for you and maybe a little weird. But go with me. We'll make it through. This is what God says was sort of the purpose, what he was doing through the plagues. He says, I will pass through the land of Egypt on that night. He's talking about the last plague that he's going to bring, which is going to be the death of the firstborn. On that night, and strike every firstborn male in the land of Egypt, both people and animals. I am the Lord. I will execute judgment against all the who? Gods. You guys, let's try it again. Against who? All the gods. Yeah, there we go. Of Egypt, right? Again, I'm about to make a statement,
And that statement is a deep and treacherous rabbit hole that we are just going to sort of peer into the surface of this morning, right? But like I'm gonna risk opening Pandora's box because there is a point to this. Those gods were real. Those gods were real. You mean like Ra and Isis and Set and Tefnut and Kemet and Heket and Hapi, like all these, like the Egyptian. And to that I say yes. And whether that was their real name or not, like that's not actually the point of the story. But these are real spiritual beings with real power and authority to affect culture in the way that we live our lives in the here and now. They're real. There's a real intelligence to these little g gods. In fact, the Bible even calls them gods. The Hebrew word is Elohim. It's the same word that's applied to the God, capital G God, but it's applied to these beings as well. They are also called Elohim, gods. And because they have a certain intelligence to them, it looks a little different in every generation. I would venture a guess that nobody has a little statue of Heket, the frog god, in your house that you burn incense to. If you do, hit me up after. Let's talk about that, right? But I would venture a guess that nobody has that, and we're not like making sacrifices to the goddess of fertility or something like that, or the goddess of success, and yet our worship to those gods still, and we are giving worship as we sacrifice and give our lives to these gods, hoping that they will return some favor based off of what we're looking for. Maybe that is success or happiness or whatever the case. We're going to look at all these ones. And God says, look, I am going to war with these gods. It's sort of like a duel at high noon, man, but one guy brings a machine gun and the other brings a water pistol, and that's kind of how the 10 plagues go, is God says, no. Actually, I have real authority here. And the way he shows that is through these acts of decreation. So biblical scholars don't call them the 10 plagues. Biblical scholars refer to this narrative as the 10 acts of decreation. Is that God is literally deconstructing. Pretty important. He is literally decreating the land of Egypt to show who has ultimate authority. As the creator, he can make creation bend to his will, and he can decreate just as quickly and easily as he can create something. And by so doing, he is dismantling all of these other gods, showing they have no power, and saying, look, I want you to look. You've given your life to Heket, the frog god. We're going to look at that one today. You've given your allegiance in hopes of finding success from this thing. And so God does these very specific signs to show that Heket has no power. So he's deconstructing the things that they have put their faith in to show that actually there is no metal to it. There is no substance to this in any real way. That actually it is the one God of Israel that has true power. So, you guys doing good. This is what's happening in the plague narrative. Let's dive in. This is Exodus chapter 7, if you have your Bibles. Exodus 7, we're going to pick up in verse 14. It's kind of a big chunk here. We got a lot of scripture to cover. Then the Lord said to Moses, Pharaoh's heart is hard. He refuses to let the people go. So go to Pharaoh in the morning, and when you see him walking out to the river, stand ready to meet him by the bank of the Nile. Take in your hand the staff that turned into a snake, and tell him, the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, has sent me to tell you, let my people go, so that they may worship me in the wilderness. But so far you have not listened. This is what the Lord says. Here's how you will know that I am the Lord. Watch, I am about to strike the water in the Nile with the staff in my hand, and it will turn to blood. The fish in the Nile will die, the river will stink, and the Egyptians will be unable to drink the water from it. So the Lord said to Moses, tell Aaron, take your staff, stretch out your hand over the waters of Egypt, over the rivers, over the canals, ponds, and all their water reservoirs, and they will become blood. There will be blood throughout the land of Egypt, even in wooden and stone containers. Moses and Aaron did just as the Lord commanded. In the sight of Pharaoh and his officials, he raised the staff and struck the water in the Nile, and all the water in the Nile was turned to blood. The fish in the Nile died, and the river smelled so bad the Egyptians could not drink water from it. There was blood throughout the land of Egypt. But the magicians of Egypt did the same thing by their occult practices, so Pharaoh's heart was hard, and he would not listen to them, as the Lord had said. Pharaoh turned around, went into his palace, and didn't take even this to heart. All the Egyptians dug around the Nile for water to drink because they could not drink the water from the river. 7 days passed after the Lord struck the Nile. Here's the point of the Nile River turning to blood thing. God turning the Nile River to blood was aimed at the goddess Hapi, who represented the fullness of life. Happiness. In the name is not lost on me. I assume it's not lost on you guys either. The Nile was Egypt's source of power and income. It was their ability to import and export. It aided in making them like an incredibly defensible nation. It was security. Because all of the goodness it provided them, they had attached serious religious significance to the Nile, and they had erected these gods, one of them being Hapi. There are 3 or 4 that are tied to the Nile, but Hapi is decidedly who this was aimed at. And they were symbolized as having authority like over the Nile or whatever, but more than that, they represented this pursuit of a fullness of life. That's what these gods were. And with a wave of Aaron's staff, God makes it completely unusable. Almost as if to say, like, you thought this river was your lifeblood? Let me show you that it was not, actually. Let me show you who has real authority over this. So let me explain what I mean by fullness of life. You guys you remember the ad campaign for Coca-Cola? It was Coke is Life. And like somebody would snap open the Coke, and then it's like a party would just show up on some, downtown Manhattan rooftop, and all these people were there, and they were drinking their sugary Coke drinks, and like everybody is skinny and happy and sexy, and there's music going on, and everybody's like dancing around, and then it would end, and it was Coke is Life. You guys remember that? Coke is Life. That's kind of the thing. And it's that life that everybody dreams of when they dream of the good life. And I would venture a guess that everybody has their own version of that. Everybody has their own thing that's like, man, if we could just have this, it would be bliss. It would be so good. Life would be full and complete, and we would want for nothing, and we could just coast through life, right? Maybe if we just had a little more income, we'd have the Coke is Life sort of happiness. Or maybe if I weren't stuck in this job but could do the job that I've really wanted to do, if I could get the promotion, or I could get, maybe if you're in the military, get into cross-trained into this particular job or something like that, man, we'd have it made. Maybe if my marriage was just a little happier or more exciting or romantic. Maybe if we can get to this next stage of life with our kids, or get them past this stage. I mean, my goodness, dude, like terrible twos or whatever the thing is that you're in, then it's all going to be great. Maybe when I can get back into that old pair of blue jeans again or something like that. I don't know. We set up all sorts of things and attach it to the good life. And in so doing, we make incredible sacrifices to Hapi to attain this. We work for temporary things that could be taken from us in an instant. Listen, man, your husband, your wife, your job, your kids, especially your kids, they make terrible gods. They do. Terrible gods. And it's not fair to them either, man. It's not fair to put them in a position where you need them to provide you with happiness. Because the second that expectation sort of creeps into, you've turned them into a god, and you're asking them to do something that God never intended for them to do in your life. See, we've sold our soul to Hapi for the PB&J of happiness when God offers a 5-star meal of fullness of life and joy. What happens what happens to us when that thing that we were looking to for happiness fails us? We start to settle, don't we? It was the Egyptians. This is verse 24. They dug around the Nile for water to drink because they could not drink the water from the river. So God had given them the Nile. They had rejected him and attached some other goddess of their own making into that position. And when God shows some authority over the Nile, he's like, hey, let me get your attention. What do? They go and they dig around the Nile. So just imagine little ditches or little irrigation canals that they've sort of dug around the side. Maybe they're filtering some water or something, but they found some like muddy water off the sides of the bank of the Nile River. And they're drinking this like nasty water off the side of the Nile. Let me throw a couple facts at you about the Nile River, which God had given them that had led to their explosive growth as a nation. There are 100,000 cubic feet per second of water traveling through the Nile in any given second. So here's the deal. That is a really hard number to conceptualize, 100,000 cubic feet of water per second. So I did some math for you guys this week. If you had a garden hose, big garden hose, that was running 100,000 cubic feet of water per second, you could fill up the Seattle Seahawks stadium from floor to the tippy top of the ceiling in less than 8 minutes. Right? That's how much water. That's what God had given them. They rejected him in lieu of Happy, in lieu of Isis and a few other of these gods and goddesses that they thought had given them this thing. And instead of being able to drink from and being able to like take from the source of 100,000 cubic feet per second, they're digging in the ditch on the side. Man, the deal is maybe you do have a great job, great marriage, or great whatever, but the second you stop seeing that as the blessing from God that it is, and you start seeing it as the thing you gave yourself, or the thing that will somehow make you happy or satisfied, give you that fullness of life, is the moment you set yourself up for a major disappointment and for settling and for loss. Frogs. It's the next plague. Chapter 8. The Lord said to Moses, "Go into Pharaoh and tell him, this is what the Lord says, let my people go so that he may worship me. But if you refuse to let them go, then I will plague all your territory with frogs." Now, listen to the progression of the frogs and kind of how they're going to move through. The Nile will swarm with frogs. They will come up into your palace. They will move into your bedroom. They're going to get on your bed, into the houses of your officials and your people, and into your ovens and into your kneading bowls. The frogs will come up on you and your people and all your officials. Like, listen, I mean, they're everywhere. They're just making I just picture them like jumping on, man, and it's like they're in your house, and then they're in your bedroom, and then you're in your bed, and then they're in your oven, and your kitchen, and your kneading bowls, right, on your servants, and in their houses, and all the people. And he just kind of goes over the top with this. Then the Lord then said to Moses, "Tell Aaron, stretch out your hand with your staff over the rivers, canals, and ponds, and cause the frogs to come up onto the land of Egypt." So when Aaron stretched out his hand out over the waters of Egypt, the frogs came up and covered the land of Egypt. But the magicians did the same thing by their occult practices and brought frogs up onto the land of Egypt. Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron and said, "Appeal to the Lord to remove the frogs from me and my people. Then I will let the people go, and they can sacrifice to the Lord." Moses said to Pharaoh, "You may have the honor of choosing. When should I appeal on your behalf, on behalf of you, your officials and your people, that the frogs be taken away from your house, from you and your houses, and remain only in the Nile?" Pharaoh says, "Tomorrow. Let's do this tomorrow." So I don't know why he didn't say like right now. Whatever reason, he chose tomorrow. Moses replied, "As you have said, so that you may know there is no one like the Lord our God." That's a phrase that we kind of keep seeing repeated here. "The frogs will go away from you, your houses, your officials, and your people. The frogs will remain only in the Nile." After Moses and Aaron went out from Pharaoh, Moses cried out to the Lord for help concerning the frogs that he had brought against Pharaoh. The Lord did as Moses had said. The frogs in the houses, courtyards, and fields died. They piled them in countless heaps, and there was a terrible odor in the land. I can only imagine like how terrible that was. But when Pharaoh saw there was relief, he hardened his heart and would not listen to them, as the Lord had said. All right, here's the thing. The plague of frogs was aimed at the god Heket, the giver of success. Heket was the fertility goddess, and so what does God do? God multiplies frogs over the land. Heket was also really kind of the base thing that Heket was in control of was success. If you wanted success, if you wanted to succeed in whatever the endeavor was, you reached out to Heket and you made sacrifices to Heket. And so what does God do? That procession of where the frogs are going, they come into your house and into your bedroom and on your bed and into your kitchen and into your ovens and into your kneading bowls, right? And just all over. What does he do, man? It's very intentional. It's like whatever you're going to do, you're going to try to sleep, eat, cook a meal, do business, just walk around. There's frogs everywhere. There's going to be everywhere. Any success or pursuit of success is going to be disrupted. And by the way, Heket was pictured as having the head of a frog. And so God's like, he could have done anything, but he chose the symbol of that god or that goddess and multiplied it and made it the opposite of what the thing was supposed to be. You guys kind of get how these plagues are working, right? Oh man, we make sacrifices at the altar of success in worship to the God of our ego and our desires. All the time. I would say that in the age of instant fame and the constant comparison trap of social media, that success, or at least the portrayal of success, this image of success that you have, is like maybe one of our number one gods of choice. For them, the Nile was maybe top for them, but for us, I would say this range is pretty close to the top of things that we erect as these lesser gods. And we grind and we work ourselves to death. We're constantly looking to the next thing that we can do, dissatisfied with the job that we have, or the income we have, or the house we have, or the clothes we have, the car we have. And we're always like willing to do more. There are entire sections of our society aimed at pushing human performance, just being more. You guys know what I'm talking about? Like 4 a.m. workouts, ice baths, crazy diets, self-discipline. You guys kind of know the trends that I'm talking about with all that, right? All in the name of having an edge and being the best you possible. Man, you want success, this is what you do. Get on there and watch David Goggins or something. I don't know, whoever the other guys are. Listen to what Jesus said, though. This is in Matthew 16:26. What will it benefit someone if he gains the whole world yet loses his life? Or what will anyone give in exchange for his life? It's a really good question. We'll give up sleep and we'll give up time with our families. We'll give up any pursuit of real mission, like engaging in the mission of Jesus in our neighborhoods and communities, because we're kind of like building our own thing and we're like kind of reaching for our own success. Maybe my favorite story comes from Luke chapter 12. It was a parable that Jesus told about this guy who had found success. In fact, he comes to the end of his career and he's ready to retire, but he doesn't have enough storage space to like put all the stuff that he had amassed over his lifetime working. And so here's what he says. He says, I'll say to myself, you have many goods stored up for many years. Take it easy, eat, drink, and enjoy yourself. He's finally built the bigger barns, and now he's ready to just sit back and kind of look over this kingdom that he's built. And then God said to him, you fool, this very night your life is demanded of you, and the things you've prepared, whose will they be? I don't know. So what? Like, you're the fittest human on earth, right? That's awesome. If you live long enough, there's still going to be a day where you're going to need somebody to help you get off the toilet. That's the reality. You worked hard, you put in hours, sacrificed, got ahead, got the promotion, got the car of your dreams, right? That doesn't make you successful. That just means you've got a nice car. Think of the concept this way. In light of eternity, like, what's the worst thing you could be, like, known for being successful at? Like, I don't know, wearing the same pair of underwear the longest, like I've got the world record for that or something. You're like, cool story, bro. That's disgusting, right? I think there's coming this day when we meet, like, the creator and judge of the universe face to face. And a lot of the things that we thought were, like, really made us successful and really gave our life substance and, like, meaning, purpose, is going to be meaningless in light of what, like, rests in front of us for eternity. Now, allow God to define what success is now and trust that he is going to bring it to you, or redefine how you would define success towards his goals for you in your life, and let him take you on it. Because the deal is it's probably more about character. It's probably more about who you're becoming than what you're going to get. or any recognition or status or money or whatever. It's probably more about the impact on the lives of those people around you than it is any way that you are successfully impacting your own life. Like that's how God would define success. One little last note on this one. Did you notice that the magicians could duplicate the frogs, but they had no power to make them go away? We can have some illusion of success, but only God grants success that is of real, eternal consequence. Here's the last one we're going to look at today. Gnats. I love gnats. Verse 16. The Lord said to Moses, "Tell Aaron, stretch out your staff and strike the dust of the land. It will become gnats throughout the land of Egypt." And they did this. Aaron stretched out his hand with his staff, and when he struck the dust of the land, gnats were on people and animals. All the dust of the land became gnats throughout the land of Egypt. The magicians tried to produce gnats using their occult practices, but they could not. It's their first failure, and they don't have any more successes after this point. The gnats remained on people and animals. And apparently it was so bad that even the magicians woke up to who God actually was and why they should obey him. They failed. And so what do they say? "This is the finger of God," the magicians said to Pharaoh. But Pharaoh's heart was hard, and he would not listen to them, as the Lord had said. Gnats were aimed at multiple Egyptian gods, but all of them were involved in providing comfort to some degree. How do you picture Egyptians? Are they like big, burly beards with blood crusted in them? No, it's not how we, carrying an axe. Those are Vikings. It's not what it's not how we picture Egyptians. Picture Egyptians like clean shaven and white linens, kind of walking around. You guys know, and that's actually a pretty true to form image, at least of the higher up officials. And they loved and they really prided themselves on their comfort. That their money had brought them. You ever been around somewhere where there's a gnat infestation before? Anybody ever been around? That's miserable. I used to work at a feed mill in the summers when the school was out, and I was bagging feed and sewing up a bag, and then we'd stack them up a ton at a time, and we had to throw feed in the back of people's trucks and stuff when they come to get it for their animals or whatever. But all over the place, in the place we worked, there was little piles of just feed that had spilled out and gets all nasty, and it just breeds gnats. And that was a pretty miserable job. Anyways, it was like a metal building, and the southern sun just beating down on it made it like a little oven in there. That was pretty tough. I could deal with that. What I couldn't deal with was the gnats. Got in your eyes. They get in your ears. They get in your mouth. They couldn't talk. And they were there, but they were so small that it was almost like they weren't really there. And you could maybe you could kill one, but if you were successful, 10 more just flew in to sort of take its place. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? They are hard little buggers to kill, and they pester you to death. Gnats have a way of stealing comfort that few other pests do, right? It's a pretty unique annoyance. I mean, mosquitoes, that's pretty terrible. They got their own problems. But there's just something that just this slow wearing down and eating away that gnats do to you. If you've ever had to work in an environment where gnats are attacking you, it's not like mosquitoes. It's like mosquitoes, you're going to cover up pretty quick or find some bug spray and we're going to be done with this. But gnats, they just slowly sort of erode the comfort over time. The Egyptians prided themselves on comfort, and as it turns out, we do too as a culture, actually. I was looking up some stats from labor and finance this week, and there's some pretty neat statistics out there about how people respond to trends in inflation or job loss or serious unforeseen financial expenses that come up. The vast majority of Americans, over 95%, will choose crippling debt or worse to try to spin their way out of those bad situations, which is also just choosing crippling debt. We will choose crippling debt over making sensible adjustments to our lifestyle in the way that we spend and our comfort level. It doesn't matter whether you're previous income was $50,000 a year for a household, if you take a cut on your hours or somebody loses their job or something like that, you will continue to spend at the level you're at. It doesn't matter if you were making $150,000 a year and then you take a cut, you're going to make like poor, this is what the statistics show us, is that we're going to make poor choices to continue the level of comfort, even when it could have like serious, like years-long negative impacts on our finances. That's the state that we are at. And we are willing to sacrifice at the altar of comfort and really even like put ourselves in a bad position. It's because we are looking for wealth or money or status or a nice house or a nice car, or sometimes it's just the act of spending itself that provides us some sense of comfort. At least that's what we think. Let's talk about billionaires for just a second. You guys ever wonder what it would be like to be a billionaire? Like, dude, I do. Like, what's your favorite, Patsy, what's your favorite food? What's your favorite food? Ice cream? Ice cream. Sweet. If you were a billionaire and you wanted some ice cream, like you and Jake could just go hop on your G5 and fly wherever in the world tonight that serves the best ice cream that money can buy. Like, that's just a thing. That's a real, like, that's what we want to do. That's what we could do tonight. Mine's fried chicken. I love fried chicken. And so, like, I don't know if there's any Michelin star restaurants making fried chicken or not, but, like, we could go to maybe New York or somewhere, something like that, where there's like some super fancy chef that makes this thing. Or at least I'm not cooking it myself, right? There's somebody else that's going to cook. Like, I think of this story about Tom Brady. The night after he won was like Super Bowl ring number 6, I think it was. He's sitting in the hotel room, and he's like sitting on the bed. Dude, brother's running out of fingers to put these rings at this point. Multi-million-dollar contracts, most famous NFL player, right? Victoria's Secret supermodel wife ready to leave the bathroom and come get in bed with him. Like, he's like, by all extents, like, as our culture would view it, man, this guy has made it. And he's talking to this reporter about this moment where he looks down and he's like, is this it? Is this it? Oh, bro, are you serious? I mean, that seems like that's it. I mean, that seems like that's it. That's what, like, we would want. It's what we're headed towards. You ever read, like, Steve Jobs' biography before? That brother was miserable, man. Like, it does not matter how much money or how much comfort you can provide for yourself. Like, a lot of the stories of these guys who have, it's like they're just as miserable as the people who have very, very little. See, through the plague of gnats, God is saying, look at how small of a thing can rob you of that comfort you have so built your life on. That's the point of the gnats. It was always a lie. None of the things that have actually, like, we have been conditioned to look towards in our culture to provide us comfort can actually provide the comfort our souls crave. Only the creator of the soul can provide the comfort that our souls crave. In fact, look what Jesus said. Like, this is what he invites us to if we're following him. Matthew 11:28-30. Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, because I am lowly and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Man, we run to all sorts of different things in service to the God of comfort. And Jesus invites us to something weird, actually. To take on a yoke. It was the instrument that, like, labor animals would wear to be able to pull a cart or a plow or something like that. And it sounds like the opposite of a promise of comfort in its own way, right? To become this beast of burden with a yoke on your back. But the truth is, this is it, is that you will give your life in service to something. You will wear a yoke. Even if it's just to your own desires and your own definitions of success and comfort and whatever the case, you will. You don't get an option of not wearing a yoke. Data says it's probably the God of comfort, and that God is a cruel and hard master. He will make work and performance and success the task that you live in service to, and will ultimately rob you of the very thing you were looking for at the end of the day anyways. to let Jesus drive, though? That's the image, right? He's the farmer driving the plow that you're pulling. His burden is light, and he promises true rest for your souls. Comfort, one version says. Comfort that gnats can't steal. Comfort that financial insecurities can't steal. Comfort that relational problems with friends or family can't steal. Comfort that a need to perform can't steal. Comfort that a need to have it all together or keep up with the Joneses can't steal. Comfort that doesn't let dissatisfaction creep in with the thing you do or the job you have or the people that you're in a relationship with. The things that you may be looking to provide you comfort now, but were never meant to. It can't steal it. Take my yoke upon you. It's like the farmer that knows the easy path is kind of the image. I'm not going to take you to a rocky field. It isn't that there's not going to be hard times, but it's that, man, with me, being with you, we're going to make it through this. And actually, I can give you a deeper level of comfort in your souls that you cannot provide for yourself. So let's close it out. A couple quick observations. All these three areas are very closely linked together. You guys notice that? Fullness of life, success, and comfort. And it's because the way the plagues are broken down, there are three sets of three. Three sets of three. And they're all sort of like, each one of these sets has its own sort of direction that it's taking us in. They're all sort of grouped together. Three in the Bible, there's kind of some numerology that's important to know about as we look at the plagues. Three is the number of completion and perfection and unity, right? Is there another number that you know of in the Bible that is also about perfection and completion? Anybody? 7. Yeah, everybody kind of knows that. 7. Listen to this. We read it. Exodus 8:10. Tomorrow, he answered, Moses replied, as you've said, so that you may know there is no one like the Lord our God. That statement, or an adaptation like it, is repeated 7 times throughout the plague narrative. What was Pharaoh's question again? Who is the Lord and why should I obey him? And so God does this thing and he says, this is who I am and this is why you should obey. And he says it repeated 7 times throughout this thing. God is communicating that he holds complete power and authority. He is the perfect source of all the areas the Egyptians had been looking to these other gods for and that we look to these other gods to fulfill. Like if you want fullness of life, like not a false fullness or not like happiness that's rooted in something very temporary or circumstantial, but actually a fullness of life rooted in this sort of unshakable joy that just overflows. Like you can't get that yourself. No amount of money or Coca-Cola is going to give that to you, right? Only the